HTML semantics are always evolving. On the one hand, thanks to sensible browser defaults, semantics can quickly give visitors a visual lay of the land. Just as important, they also help computers understand intent and when content is used in non-visual ways, either through assistive technologies or helping search engines and even code transformers that can take your code to other things, like PDFs as an example. This challenge is about the decisions we make while using HTML. It should allow for plenty of open discussion and hopefully a few fun surprises along the way. So here's the challenge. Break down the provided creative as if it were a comp handed to you by a creative team. And there's a bonus here to use semantic markup pretty much as much as possible, right? It's HTML semantics. So here's our creative. It is a book cover from The Monocle. The Monocle does these really cool travel guides. This one's for Tokyo. And they pretty much all follow the same format. So we have the monocle at the top, and then the title of the book, some pointers. These are always the same across all books, so need to know right out in front. There's hotels, food and drink, so on, etc. Some make this a little bit bigger, some content-specific links, for lack of a better word, right? Pointing to ideas that are going to be talked about in the book. Then a nice big chunky image, not the person on it, but the image itself filling the whole page, and some sort of a quote in the footer of the book. Okay. To start, I'm going to jump right in and do this all with divs and spans. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but starting with divs and spans, we can build into a solution. So we have this monocle bit right at the top, and sometimes because I'm on a newer Mac OS, it lets me copy right from the image. So I can go and do that right here. Okay. I can add a div. Inside of there is this text. Now this monocle bit is actually wrapped by something. Let's put it in a span for now. Really terrible idea, but we're going to do it that way. Then we have the number. The number can be another span, and the icon. Now, to save us some time, I could do that too, but I think we can all agree that it's some kind of an image. Whether or not it's like an SVG or something, that's up for debate. But for now, we're going to use an image. And then we have the title down below. We'll just go and type Tokyo in here like this. Already, you're probably getting a little bit squeamish, going, no, that's not right, but stay with me. We're going to get there, okay? Then we have these 10 links, for lack of a better word. Again, we're going to use another container div, just like this. And inside of here is going to be that series of links. There's going to be 10 of them. I'm going to use a little bit of Emmet magic to save from typing. And we'll just do it this way. So there we go. 10 of them looking very, very ugly. We're going to do the exact same thing for the 3 links below it. So here's another div, and inside of here are 3 of these with some text. Super. Okay. The image, again, we used an image up there. It doesn't make sense to hide the fact that we need an image. So I'm going to go and cheat a little bit by grabbing a photo. Let's just do Japan. See what it comes up with. Ooh, I like this one. So copy. Well, let me copy the image. Small, thank you. And paste it in there. So now we have an image, and then we finish with the quote. It's going to force me to refresh in a second, but the quote can also go here, and we'll just go, let's say 15 words like this. Okay. Now, sometimes it doesn't let me scroll, so a quick refresh gets us there, and we have that quote. Everything is in here, and very quickly we can see how semantics are missing. There's nothing to tell us that this is the title There's nothing to tell us that this is that number, which I actually forgot to put in there. There's a 3. Should pop in right there. Good. Nothing to tell us that these are links, because right now they aren't. They're just text. Nothing down here to suggest that this might be some sort of a quote. The only real semantics we have are the image. And we're actually missing the other image because I didn't add one there. But we need to do something better. So let's start by adding the obvious. The parts that have probably been making you squeamish this whole time. Let's go and fix them really quick. This we don't need to be a div. It can be a paragraph. It's going to jump around. Even though this whole paragraph is italicized, monocle is not. So what if we flip it on its head and say that this is italicized, which we use emphasize, sorry, the M tag, emphasize, and that will boost it a little bit when it's read by screen readers. Okay, we'll come back to this number 3 later on. Actually, we can tackle it now. A lot of people are using an I to hook into that. I is also italicized, but it doesn't get read the same way in screen readers. So when you're doing icons through, say, Font Awesome, they like to hook into that I. Okay. Image we don't need to talk about. Tokyo, the title being the biggest part of the page. Well, let's just go and set that to H1. Again, CodePen very helpfully getting that sorted. And you can see that things start to jump around really nice. We start to get some space. It's a little bit more chunky. Things are starting to take shape. Now, the links. The links are a disaster. Okay, there's nothing in here that is going to help us. Let's just go and delete that for a second. Okay. Instead, we're going to make it a list. It's very often to set a list of links as a list. So let's just go and do that. There's going to be 10 of them again. In here, we're going to have an A tag. That A tag doesn't point anywhere, so we can just set href equal to the number sign so that we don't have to worry about it. And then that lorem text again. So once that pops in, now we have a nice list of links. They don't go anywhere. That is okay. Let's go and do the same for this block of links. So there are 3 of them. That A with an href equal to the number sign and type right, lorem 3. Good. So 2 separate lists. You can see that there's some nice default spacing between everything. Everything's coming together. The image is okay. Let's change this to a paragraph. Good. So already we have some really nice markup in here, right? There's not much in here left. In fact, I don't think there are any divs or spans left in here, but we can do better because we're missing sectioning elements. And sectioning elements are very important to semantics. They allow computers and assistive technology to know how to jump around your site really easily. Okay? So in here, we can start right around here. So this list is the main list. And like I said, for each one of these Monocle Travel Guide series books, these are always the same. So we can assume that this might be like the main navigation of a website. We can do that with the nav tag. If you've never heard of the nav tag, now's a great time to learn because everybody uses it, okay? So we have that. Get rid of this right here, clean it up. The nav tag. Now, everything else inside of here, we have basically 3 sections. We have this top section with the links and the title and stuff. Then we have this main section, which is only an image, but we could assume that there would be some text in here. And then we have the thing sitting near the foot of the book. Okay? Hint, hint. Just keep on going. So adding some space in here, just like this, we can wrap all of this using a handy shortcut. It will be called header. Okay? So if I select all of this and move it right up, one more just to keep it nice and clean, get rid of the excess space and maybe even format it a little bit. Now we have header. Nothing changes visually, but it gives us a way to hook styles into it. It also tells computers and assistive readers that, hey, everything inside of here should be the same across pages. And in fact, except for the title, everything will be pretty much the same, right? We have that navigation, everything else in here. Going down further, we'll come back to that in a second. We have the main part of the page. That's this image. We could also assume that there would be maybe some paragraphs in here, right? If it was an article. So main, and then of course this is, for today, is going to be our footer. Now, with all of these challenges, they are open to interpretation. You might think that this paragraph really belongs up in main, but I needed an example to do footer. So here I am making it up, right? So there we go. We have the header, we have the main section, we have the footer. It's broken into 3 distinct pieces. We can go a little bit further inside of here. We use nav. This is kind of like an aside. So there is an aside tag. An aside is anything that goes along with the main content in that section, but it's kind of an extra thing. So we could do that. You might debate whether or not this is a smart place for it right in the header, but there's no harm in it. So let's keep doing that, okay? So that's the sectioning. Now, there are still some other places that we can do better on this, okay? One of those places is this bit right here. So it used to be that we had the title of the website be the H1. So it might be H1, and then the main title would be something like H2. Please do not do this. A lot of websites got this wrong, and they got punished for it because search engines would see that all of the articles on your website were the Monocle Travel Guide series. That doesn't work. Okay? They don't like that, so let's not do that. Let's leave it as a paragraph and change this one back to H1. But we can show computers that this is grouped together. These two things kind of fit together. Travel Guide series, we're talking about Tokyo. We do that with something called an H group. Whoops, H group, like this. Fingers aren't working today, that is okay. And we toss it up here just like this. And that way we tell it that this paragraph here fits nicely with this H1. The key with H group is that you're only allowed one H tag inside of it if you're doing it right. And everything else around it, you can have paragraphs before and after that. Completely optional. But everything else around it is somehow related to it. So a nice little H group in there. I is useful, but it has visual meaning, right? So maybe what we want to do is we want to use something like a U tag. Now, this one's a tricky one, and I'm bringing it up for a very specific reason. It used to be that U meant underline. And in fact, if you look here, it is underlined still, because that's how browsers do it. But that's no longer the case. In fact, in HTML4, the U tag was deprecated. And they said, we aren't doing that anymore because CSS can already do the underline. But what they did was they brought back a new U tag. And that U tag was called the, let me bring it up here, the unarticulated annotation, which is a mouthful. But what we're saying here is that it indicates a non-textual annotation. What's non-textual? Anything that is visual, okay? If it's a visual annotation, a visual decoration, then this is kind of what you want. You want this U tag. Now, again, it used to be called underline. It was actually deprecated because of that. And then in HTML5, they brought it back as the unarticulated annotation. Unfortunately, browsers still underline it. So we'll have to get rid of that. If we were doing CSS today, we'd have to get rid of that. But the U might just be what you need, okay? Another thing where we can go further is down here we have the paragraph. And because it feels like a quote, something we might want to use is the quote tag. Bring this up and you'll see that we get quote marks. Now, some cool things about the Q tag, okay? The Q tag is language aware. A lot of people miss this. So we can actually go lang equals FR for French, and we get angle brackets, right? There they are, okay? We can also do something like J for Japanese, and we get these really cool different styles of quotes, okay? And more than that. So from here, the only little bit of CSS we're going to write today, we can actually do that Q, we'll hook into it, and we go quotes. Quotes, not a question mark, quotes gives us two sets of things. So if we do this, it'll probably go away. It does. That is okay. And inside of here, we can put anything. So we could put the dots with the space and a space with the dots, and we get that. And then, of course, if we wanted to, we could keep going on that roller coaster and go before. The content is already set, right? But just to make sure that we're doing it right, we go open quote like this. Good. Nothing changes, but now we can hook into that with our color. We can go Firebrick, and it should light up as a different color, which it does. Very cool, right? We can also do this with block quote. The difference is that block quote does not offer quotes by default. Instead, you'd have to put block quote in here like this. And same thing with this, copy, paste. Changes to block quote. Okay. So there it is. Like we have a completely, well, hopefully completely semantic markup for this Monocle travel guide series cover. Okay. We started with divs. I didn't leave the code in here, but we started with divs, and that was ugly. And then we went and added obvious things like the H1s and the navigation. Then we added some sectioning markers with header, main, and footer. And from there, we added some tags that you probably don't use that often, like the U, the unarticulated annotation, okay? Not underline, and I'm sure that it'll still be called underline, but unarticulated annotation, just a mouthful there. And of course the Q tag, which is language aware. Really cool stuff there. That's that. So if you have any questions, please do comment. And if you have a different solution, that is perfectly okay, because semantics are always evolving. So what we use here might not be what we use in a couple of years. These were my decisions. Yours will be different. And let's keep the conversation going. So if you do have those questions, hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.